5?
I think, well, I hope it just does that. Maybe it,
Oh, maybe it does. Yeah, okay. I think you were probably right. That's probably why I
I think,
accepted it. Okay.
yeah, good.
Okay.
Live chat. Okay. Oh, great. We're getting some folks on the call already.
Yeah.
I'm excited about this. Chris, oh my God, Chris Klunginger is an amazing human being. He's an award-winning, Emmy award-winning meteorologist and climate communications specialist, best known
Thanks,
in
Julie.
Iowa. Pardon?
I said thank you. You're too
Oh,
kind.
well, no, not at all. You've earned all these accolades and so much more. Chris spent about 18 years in television meteorology. Is that correct? Working in Rochester and Albany, New York, and Saginaw, Michigan, and ended up in Des Moines, Iowa, which is where I'm based. He joined KCCI TV in 2021, and partly because the station wanted him to explain the connections between climate change and Iowa's increasingly extreme weather. But his departure from Iowa became a national story in 2022 because he received threatening and harassing emails from a viewer angered by his climate reporting. And there's so much more to Chris's story. I'm delighted to report that there is a documentary in the works about Chris and his story. But I wanted to get him on the call today because watching the horrific news coming out of Nepal and the obvious connection to me as a viewer, as an uneducated person in terms of meteorology, it just seems like we got to talk to Chris about what 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 is happening in terms of climate change that might be contributing to these natural disasters. So, Chris, that's enough of my blathering away. Tell me where you were when you first heard about this disaster in Nepal, and what were your first thoughts?
Was at work, and I refused to call it X, but I was watching on Twitter. I usually kind of have that on to see what's happening in the background, and then saw the CCTV camera showing the international crossing, and I was wondering what was happening. And I saw people running in the foreground. In the background, you can see this giant wall of water. And at first, my first assumption was this has to be AI generated content. And unfortunately, it wasn't. I think having spent a lot of time in the field when I worked in NBC covering disasters on the ground and being flown in before they hit, I've seen some pretty horrific things, but to see that, I think that there's no match compared to what we saw in Nepal yesterday. Really, truly heartbreaking what happened there.
So, one piece of the story is that an avalanche or a glacier just broke loose. I assume that is related to global warming. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, I mean, there's some nuance to that. What was interesting is that seismographs initially reported it as an earthquake, which triggered a landslide. But it was the other way around. It was the landslide that was powerful enough to register as a 5.2 magnitude earthquake at a depth of 0 kilometers, so a surface level event. And that is when you enter into, well, then what caused this event to happen? And an attribution study, which shows how big of an influence climate change has had on a particular event, will take days, weeks, and even months. But here's what we do know. Nepal in the higher elevations, that area is warming 50% faster than the rest of the entire planet. And even when you get up to 2,000 to 7,000 meters in elevation, the average temperature has warmed quite substantially. And even if temperatures are below freezing still, but close to the freezing mark versus 10 degrees below freezing or 10 degrees below zero, that actually uh, makes the ice less structurally sound. So the strength of that ice diminishes by 78% as you take the temperature from 10 degrees below zero to just around the freezing mark, but still below freezing. And one of the theories is that that may have been enough to cause the landslide, that being less structurally sound, and then it gave way, causing what you saw.
Why why couldn't this be predicted?
Yeah,
Or
that's a
was
great
it?
question. I think weather prediction has come a long way, and I think um, a lot of people think with climate change you can just adapt your way out of it, build seawalls, raise homes, move homes out of flood zones, and that's fine. And to an extent, we can adapt to climate change, and we have to. I mean, for us to exist on this planet, and in coming decades, we need to make changes, significant changes. But this is a perfect example of you don't know when some of these disasters are going to happen. And a flash flood, we know when there's going to be heavy precipitation, we know a general area of where it's going to happen. In this case, you don't know when something is structurally just going to give way and fall, right? And that's more of a civil engineering side of things, right? When structures topple over, what is that tipping point? So meteorologically, we know there are tipping points, when there's severe weather, when there's flooding, and there's hurricanes. We kind of know that part of the science, but these events and what makes them so catastrophic is there really is no lead time. The disaster agency in Nepal, when they look at climate risk going forward, this is cited as one of those risks. And they know it's a danger. But I mean, when you see that much moving water and moving land and earth, there's really no way to adapt to that. No seawall, no levee, no dam would ever protect against that kind of force.
So as you look at the globe, what are other areas that are ripe for this kind of disaster?
Any high elevation glacial zone where we still have glaciers. I mean, they've been melting at an alarming pace, but they still exist. Now, the problem is when you have ice that's still intact with meltwater, that adds kind of a fluid mechanism that can kind of help to work and destabilize the ice even more. And when that ice goes, there comes that rush of water. So anywhere that's seeing significant glacial melt, you're talking even in the Alps, we've seen similar things on a smaller scale. Same thing up across parts of Greenland. Um, those are things and those are areas where we need to hyper focus on areas that still have those glaciers that at least partially still intact. And other parts of Asia too that are high enough in elevation that still have glaciers.
I'm gonna ask anybody on the chat here, if you have a question, please, please chime in. We'd love to have your input. But in the meantime, Chris, how do you sleep at night? How do you how do you manage personally watching the evening news and realizing how little connection the reporters are making to these catastrophic events and to what you know to be a fact, and that is climate change is real and it's impacting every aspect of our lives.
I mean, it would be the same as somebody that's a doctor going in and listening in on a patient's appointment, and they're not telling you that smoking is causing the lung cancer that your family member has, right? I mean, it's that crazy to me that we're not hearing these connections. One of the things, Julie, in your introduction, that I've been more vocal about recently is the fact that I was not just a recipient of harassing emails and a threat. I was silenced by my station who wanted me to talk about climate change because they felt too uncomfortable about how it was being done, and there was a lot of support for it. And I think that that's the unfortunate part. People do want to hear about it. And when I left and I had received hundreds and hundreds of emails from Iowans that liked hearing about how the two, weather and extreme weather and climate change are connected, they liked that and they liked having that knowledge. Um, so I think so 2 things, the need and the desire is there. People want to hear it. We need to hear it, and we're just not. And if you look at the nonprofit Media Matters, they look at how, network news has covered climate change over time. They've they look at other topics too, and there's been a 3 consecutive year decrease in the amount of coverage climate change has gotten, in network coverage, which is heartbreaking
Wow.
because their weather's only gotten more extreme in those 3 years. It's not gotten, quieter or safer, or things are getting worse, and we're going in the wrong direction. So it is tough to sleep at night, and each day, I work my full-time job for 8 hours, but each day I try to find the climate story of the week, and I post it on Substack, I post it on Instagram and on social media, 60 seconds of that top story of the day and explaining why it's climate change, because even though I'm not getting paid to do it, I need to do it because that's the one thing that least, um, makes me sleep at night when I know I'm doing my best. Or trying to do
So,
my best. Yeah.
as you're talking, I'm realizing that it underscores the reason why we all are doing what we're doing. We're going to Substack. We're trying the best we can as individuals to fill in the blanks that legacy media is leaving. How's your experience on Substack? I'm so glad you're part of the Iowa Writers Collaborative. I'm
I
so
love it.
appreciative. Yeah,
And I think it's a role model, and I've pitched to people and used it as an example because these are stories, these are, writers and journalists that I think are doing a better job telling the story of what's going on in Iowa, regionally, nationally than media elsewhere. And I think that that's so important because what happened to me, I was silenced. And I know that I'm not an exception to the rule. I know others are being silenced as well. So it's a great way to um, kind of get back to the foundation and fundamentals of journalism. I think it's one of the most effective ways I've seen it carried out. And kudos to you, Julie, for making that happen because it is such
yeah.
a success story. I truly believe that.
Well, thank you. I'm not looking for girls here, but
You
I
deserve
do
it.
think well, I do think having a collaborative where we're focused on one geographic area, but the stories overlap because of a mutual interest in the state, and finding that common interest then introduces people who might not otherwise be drawn to climate content.
Yeah.
They discover you and they realize that there is a connection between what's going on and the massive floods or whatever taking place in our home state, and then extrapolate that to the broader populace.
I mean, I hope so. I hope that's the goal, right? Because everything, the thing I hear most, and it's such an ill-informed argument, is that it costs too much to do anything. But I mean, you look at the price tag of these disasters, and it just leaves me speechless. That can still be the argument that doing anything when it comes to climate adaptation is just too much money. Well, what are we doing now when it comes to these billion-dollar disasters happening every 2.5 weeks? I mean, to me, that is crazy, and it goes beyond that. I mean, the 2024 election, we were hearing so much about the price of eggs, but every other grocery item on that list has gone up largely due to climate change. Droughts across Europe, droughts across South America, where we get coffee from. I mean, your insurance policies going up in 95% of the zip codes across the United States of America by at least $600 a year. And those are real costs that every American is facing. And to me, to hear, oh, it's too expensive. You're already paying the price one way or another, and it's costing a lot of money.
Yeah, oh yeah, don't get me started on and then trying paying insurance all your adult life, and then when you actually need it
Need it.
because of because of a climate related disaster, they don't pay. They stall, they stall, they
Yep.
stall.
It's cute.
It's anyway. So let's get back to your expertise as a meteorologist and talk to us a little bit more about the Nepal disaster. What happened? What what does that say about the status of the planet today to you?
I think it's one of many tipping points where, the glaciers are reaching a breaking point. Many have disappeared in recent decades. Many are on life support, and many are a ticking time bomb. And again, another place that we see this oftentimes is Alaska. I'm sorry that I forgot to mention that in my list of places, but Mendenhall Glacier, I believe, has been at risk of these types of flows before. It's just one more sign and one more symptom of a planet where we really have just destroyed it for far too long before taking any appropriate action. I hope it's a wake up call. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing that. A lot of people are supportive. I did a video, an explainer video, my most successful one on Instagram so far about the Nepal landslide, and it received right now 350,000 views, a lot of interactions, but a lot of the comments are the skeptics and the deniers saying that that's a bunch of BS, that climate change is a hoax. And to me, having a degree and expertise in a subject matter doesn't put you on a pedestal, but it does give you the background you need to be an expert in that field. I'm never going to be somebody that is an expert in medicine or, fixing my car because I'm not a trained mechanic and I know my boundaries. But so many people just think that, Googling and looking stuff on YouTube makes them an expert. And they're simply not. But it kind of it, it shows that we have a long ways to go. That even after disasters like this, we need to somehow find a path forward.
So, Chris, I'm going to give you a magic wand,
Yeah,
and that magic wand is going to allow you on day one of um, the next Congress and the next administration. What can let's just talk about the United States. Let's not
yeah.
go global yet. What can the United States do immediately to address some of these issues? Or is it just too late?
I mean, if we get control and a majority in the House and Senate, I think the first thing is to impeach, remove, and get rid of this current administration. And I think that there's been enough crimes committed that it should just be a clean slate. But anyway, I think that the Democrats need to actually grow a spine and do something if they do take hold of the House and Senate. And then it's undoing all the crap that he has done in the last 2 years. I mean, he has set I mean, the United States used to be the gold standard of meteorology across the entire planet. And I think that we don't even rank in the top 10 but because of the Doge cuts and what we have done and the cuts, both in personnel and funding have been so damaging. It has set us back decades. So it's trying to staff up with experienced meteorologists and scientists, and it's giving those organizations the proper funding to gain back what we lost in the last 2 years. I think that has to be the first step because there's no path forward without fixing what we already broke, starting in January 2025. And then it's getting back into working collaboratively with other international organizations to work towards true climate action. And that is getting back on our emission scenarios, um, and getting to net zero, but also adapting to climate change too, and finding ways to make our society safer because we have waited long enough that significant change is going to be upon us, even if we adapt to these changes right now. I think El Nino is going to be a big wake up call. And I'm hoping it's in time for, I'm not that I'm hoping for bad things, but I hope it's in time for the November election, the midterms, because I think that there's enough impact with the Super El Nino that is so historic that we're going to see um, a wake up call. People are going to be, their hand will be forced because it'll be that significant, the impacts that we're about ready to see with it.
For those who might be listening to this and aren't familiar with Chris's column, I highly recommend it because he's done incredible reporting on the impending, I guess that's the word, El Nino, and what the potential impact will be. And I really thank you for that. I notice on the list of participants in this call, there are a couple of people who are running for office here in Iowa on this call, and it's not easy for a candidate to talk about climate change. If you were to advise somebody running for Congress or the Iowa legislature, and they want to be able to communicate effectively, succinctly, and in a compelling way, the issues related to climate, what talking points would you give him? What advice would you give him about how to communicate it? Because a lot of consultants are telling him not to talk about the environment.
Mhm.
People are only interested in pocketbook issues.
I think make it the pocketbook issue that I just mentioned. Make it about your insurance rates going up. Make it about insurance carriers pulling out of some communities where they're just not able to support because the weather has become too extreme. I think make it about energy independence. I mean, you have that opportunity. And I always brag about my time in Iowa, about my utility bill being so low compared to when I was in Boston. And that's truly because of energy independence from developing wind farms. And I know that there's some controversy there, but largely they are a huge success story. And in my world, a lot of people will use that as an example of how to do things. And that is energy independence. When you have a war going on in Iran, another endless war with skyrocketing oil and gas prices, that is a way to make it a pocketbook issue. It's energy independence and it's fiscally irresponsible to keep going on the way we are. And those are two conservative philosophies. And if you make that clear to anyone, I think that they'll start to see that. I think CNN's poll had climate change at 3% when it came to important issues for voters. But if you saw the immigration issue, not just international immigration, we're talking national immigration from areas that are not going to be habitable in this country. We're going to see massive influx of people into places that are, quote, safer, right? So there's the immigration issue, the economic issue, there's the healthcare issue. We're seeing new diseases emerge because our planet is warming. Make it about those things and make it a people issue, not a thing that is far removed as a polar bear North Pole issue, make it an issue at home and make it about the economic side of it. And I think that is a win.
Well said.
Don't even use the phrase. Just say the weather is getting more extreme.
Okay, that sounds good. Quick, I know you've got to run here, but tell us about the documentary film being
Yeah.
produced by you now. Yeah?
We're excited about it. So Sarah Gibson was the director of Stormy, which should have been enough to sink Trump going into the last election. Unfortunately, it wasn't. But that was a documentary on Peacock. If you want to be familiar with her work, it's called Stormy. She reached out when she heard me on either NPR or Rachel Maddow after I left KCCI. And I said, look, there's a bigger issue at hand, and it's this lack of trust in science, and especially meteorology and climate science. We're saying climate change is a hoax. We're blaming everything and anything but climate change on extreme weather. We're believing in Jewish space lasers and chemtrails and all of these wild, crazy conspiracies. There's a bigger story, and I'm happy to use mine as an anchor. So it's turned into now a story of free speech. It's a story about how this has become a politicized issue, and it shows the damages of what the Doge cuts have done to the weather enterprise in this country. So we're really excited about it. We're raising the last $600,000 in funding. Which is essentially the finishing fund. So we have a fine cut, which is going to be sent to Sundance and South by Southwest. Leonardo DiCaprio signed on as the executive producer. It was funny when we were hearing about that and we pitched the idea to his team. Normally, he doesn't come on board until they have like a finished product or this fine cut. But when he heard the pitch, he's like, "That is what happened to me as my character in Don't Look Up." He said, "I'm on board." So if you're unfamiliar with Don't Look Up, it's on Netflix. I recommend it. It's fictional. It's about an asteroid coming to hit Earth and the scientists trying to tell the news, politicians that this is coming, and there's this you know, don't worry about it attitude. It's a fantastic film. So um because we are naming names, we're naming names with the fossil fuel industry. We are worried that it may not get traditional distribution, and it may be independent film screenings at cinemas across the country. We'll wait and see, but I think that that was too important for us to leave out. And it's also, I think, shows that it's sad that you really can't tell the full story because of the media landscape right now.
Well, that's why we're all popping up. I mean, we're
That's right.
that's why I'm teaching people how to go on Substack. That's why we're duo. That's why I
That's
brought you
right,
on
Julie.
today. Yay! All right. Chris, well,
Thank you.
thank you for everything you do. And if you wouldn't mind sending me the link to the YouTube, I'll include it when I post this on Substack.
You
If
bet.
you don't mind posting it on your Substack too, maybe we can get some more engagement with this very important topic. And I really, really appreciate everything you do.
Thanks, Julie. You too. Glad to be
Okay.
part of your work. Thank you.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.